I'm Jack Evans, Chairman of the committee. Before I get started, I want to note that I have been informed that we are going to have an earthquake drill at approximately 10:17 this morning, which is about 7 minutes from now. The drill should last no longer than 3 minutes, and it does not involve leaving the building. You can all stay in our seats here. So we'll be prepared for that when it happens. Although I have to say I don't know exactly what is going to happen, so we'll find out when it happens. The announcement, is that what's going to happen? Okay. The building's not going to shake or anything? No? Okay. Fake shake to see how that works. This hearing is noticed on three bills. Bill 2023, the Residential Real Property Equity and Transparency Act of 2013, Bill 2318, the Senior Citizen Real Property Tax Relief Act of 2013, and Bill 2476, the District Real Property Tax Sale Act of 2013. If not for hearing noticing deadlines, I would have also listed the Mayor's Bill, which is Bill 2483, the Real Property Tax Sale Homeowner Protection Act of 2013. I will consider this proposal along with the others on the hearing notice, however, and I have included this bill in my circulation of hearing materials. And I am pleased that Attorney General Irv Nathan will be giving testimony on behalf of the Executive on this and the other bills that are under consideration. This hearing is a culmination of many efforts that I have undertaken to reform our real property taxation process in the district. Along with all of you, I was disturbed to read the series of stories in the Washington Post about seniors and others having their homes taken for small tax debts. First learned of this type of problem about a year ago during an oversight hearing on another piece of legislation, and I worked with AARP and others to introduce a comprehensive bill on the subject last October, which I will refer to as the Omnibus Bill. Due to the ending of Council Period 19, I reintroduced the bill in January. I also requested that the CFO constitute a residential real property task force, which has met several times already and will continue to meet. Many of the recommendations of the task force have already been implemented, such as a recommendation for the district's tax office to affirmatively notify senior citizens if they may be eligible for additional real property tax credits they are not currently receiving. Further, the CFO and the mayor have canceled the recent tax sale of any property receiving the homestead tax credits, the tax sale that took place back in July. Specifically, the Omnibus Bill would place new requirements on our Chief Financial Officer to help prevent tax sales of our residents' homes. As I said when I originally introduced this bill last year, our tax sales system has a disproportionate impact on elderly and economically disadvantaged residents, and this bill would help level the playing field in a number of important ways. Since my hearing last year, I have been working with the AARP and At Home, the Alliance to Help Homeowners Maintain Equity, to put forward a bill that would address a number of critical items, and am reintroducing the bill this year. We are continuing to have dialogue on a number of the concepts in this bill, and I understand the AARP this morning will be making further suggestions on the preservation of equity piece that I raised in my emergency legislation in September. The Omnibus Bill would expand the types of notices and information requirements the CFO must provide to homeowners before a home is taken to a tax sale, and permit homeowners to enter into installment agreements with the government to avoid tax sales. The bill will also require additional notice after a tax sale so that a homeowner will know how to redeem his or her property, and provide equitable limits on the amounts of fees homeowners must pay to redeem their homes. In September, I introduced emergency legislation which was passed to supplement the Omnibus Bill in the following ways. It froze any tax sale that has occurred of the home of a senior citizen, veteran, or disabled individual retroactively to July 2013. It established a $2,000 threshold of taxes owed for any real property to go to a tax sale going forward. And further, the bill requires the district to pay the owner of record prior to the tax sale any amount received by the district at the tax sale in excess of the amount of taxes due to the district. And finally, the bill caps attorney's fees at $1,500. This bill, along with the more comprehensive bill that I introduced earlier, in the year has begun to make changes that we need to ensure that our government is able to perform its responsibility to collect taxes while putting additional safeguards in place for our most vulnerable residents. The tax sale issue is only one piece of the puzzle, however. For many years, I have been advocating for changes in the real property tax system that will prevent homeowners from reaching the tax sale process to begin with. For example, as many of you know, I was the lead advocate for capping the percentage increase for real property taxes. We first started out 25%. We are currently at 10% per year, so that homeowners will have a more manageable tax bill even if the value of their home increases rapidly in a way that outpaces their ability to pay their taxes. Last year, several years ago, and earlier this year, I again reintroduced the Residential Real Property Tax Relief Act of 2013, which would cap the annual increase at 5%, lowering it from 10% to 5%, because in this climate, there are very few, if any, people who are getting 10% increases in their wages every year. So I'd like to get it down to 5%. It would also do away with the current minimum floor. Right now, all homeowners have to pay tax on at least 40% of the assessed value of a home, even if that results in an increase of more than 10% a year. And as many of you know, this was something, and I'm going to say it this way, that was snuck into the budget, a budget which I voted against, incidentally, snuck into the budget during the Fenty administration. And it increased dramatically people's taxes, property taxes, because people were unaware it was going to happen. And I think we should do away with that. I also moved legislation to expand the senior real property tax credits so that more seniors would be eligible for a lower property tax rate. Further, I worked with Councilmember Bonds to include language in my budget report advocating for further exemptions in real property taxes for seniors within certain income tax brackets. But this measure was unfortunately not adopted by the full council, but we will be revisiting this legislation shortly. Let's start with Mr. Jones.
Good morning, Chairman Evans, members of the council.
We're now in the afternoon.
No, now you're correct. I'm locked on morning. Thank you for this opportunity. I am the president and CEO of the United Planning Organization. We are a 50-year-old nonprofit that has worked in the anti-poverty industry in this city. And I'd like to say that in all the work that we've done and in my history in working in anti-poverty, the single most important element to fighting poverty, I think, is homeownership. Homeownership creates the economic ability to create wealth accumulation that can be passed down by generation. That is probably the greatest insult to what we face today. The inability to pass on, because of foreclosure, that wealth to the next generation. Among those who work with us each day, there are 171 foster grandparents. They're seniors. Their age range from 65 to actually we have a 103-year-old volunteer. They work in 42 different public and charter schools in this city, mentoring and coaching young learners. 95 of those are homeowners, and because of their economic status, are at risk for potentially finding themselves in a situation where they would be faced with foreclosure. What we have come today to basically support the proposals put forth by the At Home Alliance along with AARP, and we offer just a couple other points because I'm not going to read this testimony. One, we recognize the significant impact that this has socially and emotionally on persons who lose their homes. But again, the greater loss is the inability for that wealth to be passed on from generation to generation. We recognize the need to have an ombudsman, someone who can speak on behalf of elderly homeowners, particularly those who lose their cognitive skills and face declining health. We also believe that the bill B-2318 that focuses on relief, particularly exempting persons at 75 years old, is on target and should be a part of what emerges from the final piece of this legislative effort. In addition to that, we support the issues and those conditions that allow for equity to be retained or basically not stripped away from those persons who are impacted by foreclosure. Finally, we'd like to add a few other points. There's a study that is about a year old out of New York on the impact of how they implement this process. We'd urge that the council take a look at it, and particularly they find that a multi-notice situation prevents and limits the number of persons impacted by this. Thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you very much for your testimony.